going to talk now about tourists going to Afghanistan. It is ruled still by the Taliban, of course. They came back in, and there was those horrendous scenes of people fleeing the Taliban last summer. And I do kind of slightly wonder why people would go there on holiday. But one man who has is Callum Darragh, who is a danger tourist. And he's been to Afghanistan, he's been to Kosovo, he's been to Rostov-on-Don during in the Donbass, occupied during the Russian Federation. Fascinating reason. Let's find out why. Callum, you're very welcome to talkTV this morning. How are you?
Well, thank you for having me. I do somewhat object to the idea I'm a danger tourist. I prefer probably just YouTuber, because I have a YouTube channel where I add this stuff as well. I can make videos about it. It's called Britannica if people want to look at it. But
you're a tourist. You're a tourist who goes to dangerous areas. Why do you do that?
To learn about the world, I think. I mean, I started off with Afghanistan because I'd always had an interest in what's called dark tourism, which is really just a term for going to places that people wouldn't. So Chernobyl has been like the, let's say, normal one people might go to for dark tourism, or various other places, obviously. But I wanted to go to North Korea initially because I'd met the former British ambassador and he advised me what tour company to go with and everything, and then COVID happened.
Is that John Everard by any chance?
Might be. I forget the name off the top of my head.
Okay, no, there's a guy called John Everard who's a former ambassador. He's a really, really interesting guy. So it's just curiosity, really. I mean, there'll be some people who might say, well, you know, you'd be at significant risk, and also there'll be people who'd say, well, actually, you know, should you be putting money into the economy run by the Taliban, for example? What would you sort of say to those kind of criticisms?
Those arguments, I think, are a bit strange. I mean, all dark tourism of all kinds carries a little bit of risk. I mean, many other things you can do in life also carry significant risk. It's an odd one for me. But the idea that when you travel to a country, let's say North Korea or Afghanistan or anything else, that you're propping up their government with your money, I really don't find that to be true. Their sources of money are much, much larger from much other places. The amount of money you spend there, I mean, what? Maybe you spend a few grand and 20% of it will end up in tax to the state in the situation of Afghanistan, different with other countries, of course. But I don't think it's really significant in their mind of keeping their government afloat. So I don't find that criticism very valid.
What do you make of Afghanistan at the moment when you went there? What did you see? What could you do and what couldn't you do?
So I went last year. So I knew a guy called Lord Miles who was there during the fall of Kabul, and he jokingly invited me there like everyone else, and I was the only person who said yes. At the time, also, I had no vaccine because I'd had COVID twice, and they were the only place that was open that was interesting. So I went with them. And we could do pretty much anything in terms of there's no one chaperoning you or anything like that. It's not like a country that does that. You can go get food, you can go to the mall, cheesecake, you can go on the pedalos, which I'm sure people saw all the Taliban doing when they turned up, ice cream, whatever else. You can't do anything anti-Islamic, obviously. If you break Islamic law, you're going to be in big, big trouble. But I should say that I went there last year during the anniversary of the fall of Kabul, so there was a parade and whatnot, and things were a bit more jubilant for the Taliban. Now, so for example, they've taken Lord Miles. I don't know particularly what his circumstances are, but I wouldn't recommend if someone is planning a visit now, definitely to go. I always advise.
It's too dangerous now, you think? I
believe so, because not only was there issues already, so a big one would be the airport apparently has no air traffic control. The jumbo jets just land and take off on site, which is pretty amazing. But now the government seems less willing to interact with tourists. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens with Lord Miles. He's probably the biggest figure on the internet who's been there multiple times. But yeah, my advice at the moment would be not that one.
There must have been times when you've been to some of these places, including Afghanistan, Kosovo, and various other places, Rostov-on-Don, for example, where you have you felt physical danger yourself, and what have you done in terms of coping with that? Have you ever thought, why on earth have I come here?
Yeah, I mean, a few times. I mean, I mentioned to a Telegraph journalist who asked me about the Afghanistan one. I mean, when you go off the plane and I saw the Taliban flag, I was like, oh, yeah, what have I done? But you soon get over the unusual aspects of somewhere that's quite strange or, you know, a dark tourist place. The only times I felt danger that I can recall were a couple of times. I mentioned this in my video about Afghanistan, which is we got pulled over at a checkpoint and this guy speaking Pashto to me. I'm trying to speak Pashto back to him. It's going terribly, so I tell him I speak English. this Canadian guy who's joined the Taliban comes over because he speaks English. We chat for a while. And then these older Taliban guys like muttering behind, looking at us. And then our guide was like nudging us, being like, all right, it's time to go. We need to go, lads. I was like, oh, okay, sure. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for not arresting us. Got back in the car. And then the translator explained to us that the older guys were muttering about how beautiful we were. And I'll be honest, that sort of thing, I really didn't enjoy. But other than that, I've never really felt massive danger. It is just those kinds of things which I didn't like.
Okay. And would you recommend it to other people? Would you say that is something that is interesting, that is you should do? Presumably it's quite expensive to go to a lot of these very random places, not as if you can just book it online very easily.
Oh, you very well can book it online very easily. So obviously you're not going to be finding a travel agent if you want to go somewhere that's, say, dark tourism. You're going to go on one of the various flight websites, find yourself a flight, get yourself a visa, get a hotel, get a local if you can, and just turn up. And that's all you really need to do. If you're, depending on the place, obviously, take precautions. So, for example, when I was in Afghanistan, there was a risk of kidnap. So kidnappers are professionals. That's their job. So I had a friend who worked in counter-kidnap in Afghanistan tell me some advice, which is, change your clothes, change your cars, change the directions you're coming to and from your hotel, go to different hotels if you can, blah, blah, blah. So I'm definitely telling everyone, if you want to do that sort of thing, there are plenty of people who do, take it seriously. Don't just, have a laugh.
I mean, it does. You mentioned the word taking it seriously there. I mean, it is very serious, and it is something that can't be relaxing. Do you ever think you just want to weaken Faliraki?
Yeah, I don't know. A friend of mine asked me recently if I could take you to Florida and you just have 2 weeks, nothing unusual, what do you want to do? And I just kind of blanked. I don't really know what I'd do at this point. I find the idea of going to Spain for 2 weeks just a bit, I don't know, maybe I just haven't done it.
What's next? What's next for you? What's the area of the world that you want to go to next?
So the most recent one I did, I finally thought I should do a video about where I live. So I did a trip from London to Barrow because the census data came out showing that there's an area in London, for example, that is, according to the census, 0.0% English. And then there was an area in Barrow that was 100%. So I wanted to show off English culture and what's changed.
Okay.
So that'll be the next one.
Okay.
But
well, Callum, thank you very much indeed for sharing your experiences with us. That's Callum Darragh, who has been a tourist to many parts of the world that you may not have been to, including Afghanistan.